The human story is the search for belonging. From childhood to adulthood, in joy and in struggle, we all sit in questions of how to make sense of it all. What is our place? Why are we here? What is our story of searching? Join us in conversation with community members, each sharing some of their own story. I am Ben Spratt, and this is Belonging.
So it is truly an honor and a gift to get to be sitting right now with not only a beloved colleague, but an amazing friend. Rachael Evans currently serves as our Chief of Staff and Operations. What not everyone realizes is that Rachael and I first connected more than 19 years ago as she was a part of our CRS theater company. And from that launch onto stage, she has now come to be what we often think of around here as our resident angel. There is nothing in this organization that happens without Rachael's care and attention and leadership. Over the course of these years, we have grown up together in so many ways, Rachael. I mean, we have, become parents alongside each other here. Rachael is the proud parent of Franklin, along with Wilton, who is our director of facilities of both Congregation Rodeph Sholom and Rodeph Sholom School, in so many ways that I'm sure you could never have imagined when you walk into these doors. This place has really been a place that has helped shape your family, not only personally, but also professionally. And as two people that went and started as babies here, and now we feel like this is home, I can't imagine a greater gift for our community to get to be hearing from you and your reflections, and just so grateful to have your wisdom and your thoughts, Rachael.
Thank you, Ben. It's nice to be here. And yes, it's been a journey.
It really has. I mean, I think about what were we thinking about when we were 19 years ago? So as we do with every one of these conversations on belonging, wanted to hear from you about your search for belonging.
So I thought about this, and I think you feel like you belong somewhere when you are you're most comfortable. The guard is down, you're honest, you feel safe. And for me, the first time I feel like I really belonged somewhere was at the dance studio. My mom put me into a tap ballet combo when I was 5. And a few years later, when I was 8, we found a time to dance, a Christian dance studio, a time to dance from the book of Ecclesiastics. And I just fell in love. I started with tap. I started teaching by the age of 15. I was one of the coaches for our Special Olympics gymnastics team, which was amazing. I worked with dancing wheels, and I just found my happy place, both in the building and with the students and the teachers. Those people are my best friends still to this day. It was my escape from everything, from, school and family stuff, and I had to get good grades and do my homework, or dance was taken away from me. So that's I was a good student literally because of dance. So when they say it teaches you discipline, it does in the studio, but outside of the studio. And then in high school, I found musical theater, which became a true passion. And I went to college in the University of Akron for musical theater. And I picked that because it offered the most tap lessons. I got to take all 4 years of tap. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a musical theater major. Then, I moved to New York, which was such a jump, but I knew I was supposed to be here. I just knew I had to be here, and it was hard to get here, and I did it. And I taught at a competition dance studio for 2 years, and I knew I couldn't just tell this whole family of this studio that loved me, Miss Rachael, that I'm hey guys, thanks for everything, but I'm moving to New York. And I decided I was going to get my master's, and I applied to NYU at Steinhardt School of Education, and I truly stood at the mailbox and said the Our Father and the Hail Mary. God, if this is where I'm supposed to go, can you please just make this happen? Because I don't know how else I'll ever get there. And I made it in, and I was like, what? Okay, I'm going to New York. Told them all. They were all sad and happy at the same time. And I moved here, and then I got here, and I was like, what are you thinking? You can't go to school full time. I dropped out of the classes, and I never went, and worked a bunch of jobs. And then 8 months later, while taking tap classes and working 4 jobs, there was a flyer on a dance studio for an audition for Anything Goes at Congregation Rodeph Sholom, choreographed by Derek Grant from Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk. And I did my tap audition in the president's office, which is now the community room. I sang my song, which was, I hate singing in front of people, in the Han Chapel, which has not changed a smidge. And it was in front of Rabbi Leora Kay and the director, James Valetti, who I did not know at all and is now the godfather of Franklin, and got in the show. And yeah, that was 19 years ago. And every person that I am connected to either is from the show or from the office, which I call, with the clergy and everybody. And like, Leora Kay was like, hey, I see you hustling over here. Leora said, I know you're not Jewish, but would you like to work at the synagogue? And I was like, yeah, I could probably do that. And, that was like, it was meant to be. I was meant to be here. I belong here.
Well, we certainly feel the same. And, I think about the courage that it must have taken to send in that application and then to actually step into that world and realize that you need to earn an income, that you couldn't simply be in classes all day long. I can't even imagine, the reality of what that must have been and how hard that must have been. So as you look back, there's so many elements of this that are remarkable. First and foremost, what it is to have a mother who wanted to foster your ability to express yourself in some way, and then your willingness to step into different environments and feel both what's the need and what you can bring forward, and that magic alchemy that we can't always architect. But if you can go back in time to your childhood self, what was it that got unlocked in you in that first dance class? Do you remember, what was the thing that felt like it clicked even as you were just a beginner figuring out how to move? And
it's challenging, which I think people like. People like when they have to learn how to do something. That's why we do. That's why people are like, I want to learn to knit and cook and, find how to do new things. And then the music is a big part of it. Like, I hear music and my feet are tapping. And if my feet aren't physically moving, I'm usually tapping in my head, like the rhythm of it. And then the third piece, and still to this day, even when we were doing 3 blocks, for me specifically tap dancing, you cannot think about anything else. You cannot worry about what's happening in life or at home or with bills or work or anything else. You have to be so focused, because if you miss one beat, you're on the wrong foot and you're flailing and you're like, ah. So when I began teaching, I was learning how to choreograph, and I found out that I was decent at it and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the creation of something and then teaching something, and then watching other people do what you made is so amazing. So I loved teaching at the dance studio, but when I was a freshman in college, the high school choreographer was stepping down, and they were doing a remaking of Romeo and Juliet, and there was going to be swing dancing. And I marched into the school up to the theater teacher, because I had left the year before, and I said, please let me choreograph this show. And he was like, have you choreographed a musical? I said, yes, of course. I hadn't. He said, do you know how to swing dance? I said, yes, of course. I didn't. And he was like, okay. And he gave me that shot. That was my first choreography shot of a show. I watched videos and taught myself how to do lifts and taught them how to do lifts. Totally dangerous, but we did it and it was so fun. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is it.
And I think that's what sometimes stops a lot of people in their search, is we get so weary of our wanting and our wishing that we give up, and we simply just resign ourselves. But sometimes, almost invariably, there is that wink, the wink of God, the wink of a universe that is saying, Rachel, we need the person who not only can tap, but can bring out the magic in other people. I think for many people, our faith is regularly tested, and the way that we measure it is the degree to which we can feel almost intention or agency behind the good and the bad that happens in our lives. How has that changed as you have become an adult and become a parent yourself and started to see your connection to another being that you can't directly control? And how does that change your sense of faith?
My mom and dad are both very go with the flow people. God will take you where you're supposed to be. And even when I started working here, I was still going to mass on Sundays quite regularly. And then in these walls and with you all, with the clergy here, and just in the conversations that I find myself in, I find, I don't want to say religion, but I find hope and belief and faith in things that sometimes make me question the way I was raised Franklin was baptized, mainly because of my mom. I knew like that was something I wanted to do and had to do for her. And we go to church sometimes. And, I don't sit down and like open a children's Bible and tell him the stories. We have like casual conversations about it. He's seeing my actions with my mom, who is not well. She's suffering with dementia that's taking her mind and her body. And when we go there, I don't try to hide it from him. He sees me with her, feeding her and brushing her hair and putting lotion on her hands. And he sees me like we leave her and I get in the car and I burst into tears. And he says, "It's okay, Mommy, it's okay." And I say, "I know it's okay. She's okay. And we love her and we're taking care of her." And I sometimes question, like, should he not be seeing this stuff? This is hard to watch, but that's life, like I think it's important. And he said to me yesterday, he said, first day of second grade, it's basically middle school. I said, well, it's kind of not. It's second grade. He was like, no, third, fourth, fifth, and it's middle school. And then it's high school and then it's college. And then I'm going to move out and live on my own. And I said, you're not going to live with me your whole life? And he said, well, after you go up, I'll find my one true love and get married. So he was talking about heaven, and because we talk about heaven a lot because of Nana, and just trying to like be in preparation of what it's like. And I remember having the same conversations with my parents of like, but what do you think it looks like? And are we this age or are we young? And that's one of the things that I have like poked you and Shayna and Julie about of like, talk to me how you don't believe in heaven. Like I can't, because it's really the thing of like Christianity that I think I could probably leave Christmas, but heaven, I don't know. That's what like gives me hope that like, my father had issues with alcoholism and all of that. And my mom always says like, he definitely spent a good time in purgatory, but I'm pretty sure he's made it to heaven now. And I have to believe that. And I have to believe like there will be a day when like I will see him again. And, I tell Franklin, like, I picture it that it's just like this, but there's no, badness, no traffic jams and no arguing. And so I'm in the middle of trying to figure out like kids ask you questions and like when you least expect it. I haven't had the like where do babies come from yet, but I know it's any second. But you're just not planning to have like some monumental conversation as you're walking down the street. And you're like, ugh, okay, all right, pull it together. Even though you're tired, this is what we're going to talk about now.
And it's so interesting because I really do think both as a parent and just getting to interact with lots of kids in the nature of our community is our kids are tapped into the most important questions that we often avoid. How do we make sense of a world where good people and people we love end up being in decline in ways that are painful and excruciating and may, have shorter lives than they deserve? And how do we make sense of that? How does the world seem fair? And our kids like Franklin tap into that. And what a gift for Franklin to get to see your feelings, and you're giving him the tools of saying, like, when you see someone you love struggle, you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to be in pain, and then to be able to imagine, how do we make sense of that? How do we feel the connection to your father? There's so many different Jewish understandings of the afterlife, but one of the rabbinic imaginations that I most love, is a variation of the story of, a man living in the heights of his life, wants to know what happens after he dies, and he prays to God and says, please, I want to see. And so God brings him up to heaven, and he walks in and sees this huge banquet hall, and there's music playing and there's food, and everyone's singing and talking and happy. And God says, this is heaven. And then says, let me show you what hell looks like. And in Judaism, we often call hell Gehenna, which is more of like a purgatory than a heaven or a hell, but goes down and walks into an identical room, and there's music playing and there's food. And the only difference is that people look solemn. And the man says to God, I don't understand. So heaven and hell look exactly the same. Why are some people happy and why are some people, really miserable in hell? And God says, well, in hell, everyone's arms are locked at the elbow. And people spend eternity lifting up spoons filled with the most delicious food and try to put it in their own mouth and end up being despondent and hungry and frustrated by their inability to do it. And the man says, oh, so in heaven, their elbows aren't locked. And said, no, it's exactly the same in heaven. It's just that in heaven, people have learned they can feed their neighbor. And I love that image because it's a way of saying that perhaps the biggest difference is how we approach what comes next. And I love the image of it because it suggests that just as in life, we can make choices towards the good or for the bad, or towards selfishness or towards generosity, to imagine that it doesn't end at death. And so I am a person who very much believes in an afterlife and very much believes in something coming next. And I think the people who most pushed me to kind of grapple with that actually were my kids, is because otherwise life is terrifying.
Yeah.
And otherwise, when we say goodbye, it's a goodbye that suggests that there's nothing of meaning that ripples forward. And in the way that, in your father, in grief over your father, that you were willing to take the courageous leap into New York, I'm sure you feel his presence in myriad ways and found ways to teach that to Franklin. So just because I'm sure loads of people are dying to ask, what does it feel like to be one of the leaders of a Jewish organization? As a person who grew up Catholic and continues to bring Catholicism into her life, what does it feel like to be actually leading an organization of another faith?
I have never been asked that or thought of that before. When I first started, I was sitting at the Wednesday clergy meetings, was taking handwritten notes, and I could, every eighth word, I was like, what? And various people would sit next to me, Rabbi Sari, Rabbi Leora, Rabbi Greshko, and they would kind of whisper and decipher what was being said or translate the Hebrew. And it was learning a whole new language. And I thought that was fascinating, that I was able to sit here and do a job, which I always tell people is essentially stage managing the place. I'm the stage manager. I run the calendar and the supplies and the stuff and the people. But at the same time, learning a whole new language, I thought that was really cool, that it was kind of being educated at the same time. And Hanukkah and Purim and these things have become gigantic productions, and we just have the greatest staff that everyone loves to just hustle. Go grab the water bottles, find the radio, go get this. Why is this leaking? Anyone will do anything because they just want to see it done right and fast and best. And I like to do it calmly. My dad, he always said the three things that'll kill you are hurry, worry, and fear. And I think that's ingrained in me since I was tiny, that there's no reason to be stressed out and kerfuffled about anything. And I can imagine in other places I would feel uncomfortable. I've never felt uncomfortable here for a second. And I think part of that is because for years I watched us trust Jose Suero in setting up Shabbat every day. I mean, he rolled in with his cart. He would correct anybody on the number of candles that should be out and knew where the Torahs were supposed to be. And this is just a place that's you don't have to be anything to be here. You just be you, and that's fine. And we are all doing the same thing. We all just want goodness and to help people and to be better and to make what can be a really dirty, scary, loud city have this little piece of sanctuary that we all can come to, every day.
I couldn't articulate better exactly what I hope and pray this place always can aspire to be, that we now have in our community room a quote from the Bible from Isaiah, my house shall be a house of prayer for all people. And I think about how proud I am to walk into a building where it doesn't matter which side of my family walk in, it doesn't matter anyone's background. I hope that this is always a place where people feel like whoever you are, searcher, wanderer, person who already has found belonging, I hope that this can be a place where people feel like they can be embraced, and that even as we're doing Jewish, that it's something that's open to everyone. And you have one of the, I'd say, most robust Hebrew vocabularies of almost anyone on our team. And I think, who could have thought, 19 years ago, could you have imagined that you'd be the one correcting people on, pronunciation and knowing most of the blessings and the prayers? And so I'm curious, as Franklin is growing up and you're getting to see parts of yourself in him, parts of Wilton in him, and parts of him that's just Franklin, what do you share with him in order to have him believe in his own worth, his own belonging? What are some of the ways that you try to bring or inspire Franklin to feel his own place of belonging in this world, or to at least be a searcher for it?
My older brother and sister are 15 years older than me, and they both have 4 kids. They're twins. Sean and Suzanne are twins. They both have 4 kids in the same order of boy, girl, boy, boy. And now their kids have kids, and I have 6 great nieces and nephews. And to watch them all in Ohio just grow up together and do all of the things, he goes back there and there's like trampolines in the backyard and all the dogs, everyone's got dogs. I'm so happy he gets to see that and be there with them and, run around barefoot in the creek and all of those things. And he's always asking, when are we going to go again? When are we going to go again? And I hope that he gets a strong bond with all of those cousins and his older cousins, that they can always have each other to lean on, because it's important to me that he has a relationship with everybody and that Ohio is a piece in his heart. And last night, on the evening of the first day of 2nd grade, it was a beautiful night. And I said, let's go outside for a walk. And he said, can I take my bike? And I said, yep. Do you want to take the training wheels off? And he said, yes, let's do it. And he is the perfect combo, because there's this side of him that's like, I coasted with my feet out for 15 seconds. I'm amazing. And then he puts his feet down and he's so frustrated. And there's like this Dominican side to him, and then this hopeful side to him. And he flashes back and forth between the two of them. And he got off the bike 3 times and he's like, forget it. I'm never going to ride a bike. I don't need to ride a bike. I like a scooter better anyhow. And I said, okay, fine. That's fine. Let's just go home then. And then I said, do you want to just coast down the hill one more time to end on a high note for the evening? And he said, sure. And he got on the bike, and I was holding the back part, and Wilton was standing there, and he was coasting, and then he put his feet up on the pedals, and he said, let go, Mommy. And I said, no. And he said, let go. And I let go, and he just started pedaling. And then from there, he pedaled up and down, over and over and over, and just did it. And I don't know what snapped in him from I can't do it, to yes, I can. But that's what I hope he has all of the time, that he doesn't question himself. He doesn't let other people question him. The part of me that walked in and said, I can choreograph a swing dance for Romeo and Juliet. The part of me that was sitting here when on the 3rd floor, I was right next to the restroom and the folding machine. And then Matthew Cosby said, I'm going to go be a nurse. And I went to Joe Elbaum, the executive director, and I said, I think I can do the operations manager job, having only been here for 4 months. That part I want him to have, that yes, I can do it. Even if you've never done it, even if you maybe can't do it, that you can definitely figure out how to do it.
I feel like that captures it all. I feel like, both the struggles of a parent of how do we encourage our children but not push them too far? How do we encourage them to ride away from us but also know when to let go? I mean, all of those elements. And I wonder if, as you look back on your journey and you think about the moments of pain, the moments where you were terrified, the moments when you had the courage to take a leap and not know what was going to happen. For all of us, we enter this world with a family of origin. And in some way, shape, or form, most of us end up choosing and shaping a new understanding of family later in life. And sometimes it's because of the people we fall in love with, or the children we're part of, the friends that become chosen family. But along the way, we come to see that family means many different things. And it is both a point and a nod to our origin story, and also one of the ways that we come to define the circle that's immediately around us. Well, if I can ask just one more question, what's the musical that most moves you?
My favorite musical of all time is 42nd Street. I was in 42nd Street when I was in high school, and Peggy Sawyer is from Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is essentially Canton, Ohio, right? Small town girl. She, Dorothy Brock is the person who is the longtime Broadway star, is always the lead, kind of tired. Peggy is the hungry, vibrant, go get 'em, energetic. Everyone loves her and gets to show off her stuff at the tea shop, if you recall. And that's when oh my gosh, this girl can really tap. And I think I just relate to that, because I don't think people, especially here, if you see me standing at the doors of the sanctuary, I don't think you're being oh, I bet she can tap dance. And then she gets to step in and be the lead in the musical. And it's the most amazing end, the highest, yay, she made it. She's where she's supposed to be. All her dreams came true. What's better than that? So yeah, 42nd Street. It's the epitome of the musical, which I was able to do here, which was insane. That was a gigantic leap and I was gunning for it, and everyone was like, how are you going to do 42nd Street at Rodeph Sholom? And I was like, I promise you, I can make anybody tap dance. I promise you. Just put the tap shoes on them. I can make anyone do it. I think the common goal that I always see is when you walk out of the theater or the church or the synagogue is that people kind of have like rebooted themselves a little bit, and that's the goal. That's what I love.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel, I want to offer real gratitude. This has been a gift of a conversation, and I feel so blessed to get to be with you, with Wilton, with Franklin, as part of this Rodeph Sholom family. We are blessed to have your leadership, and very grateful that in all the twists and turns of life, you're willing to walk in these doors and realize that this place was calling to you, and in turn, how much you pour of your own lifeblood into making this a place of belonging for so many others. It is a gift for all of us, and looking forward to many, many, many more years together here.
Yes, thank you, Ben. And, I adore you. I'll follow you anywhere.
Same. I'll follow you anywhere. So,
Thank you for joining us and listening to this story of belonging. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information about CRS, visit us online at rodeph sholom.org.